Hey, it's been a little while. I have been working on things that are important, but not necessarily visually interesting. So I guess we can get right into it. What I said I was going to do in the last video was get into the website and start cleaning things up. And so, if you're not familiar with the way HTML works, how websites are built, they're kind of made up of three parts. You got HTML, which is how you organize information, and then you have CSS, cascading style sheets, which are how you style that information, right? So if you want something to have a rounded border, you do that with a style sheet. You say like, oh, rounded 2 pixels. And so what's nice about CSS, the reason they're cascading is you can say like, all right, on the whole page, I want all of my fonts to be, for me, everything is hash 262626, right? That's my black. I do sort of a dark gray. And so now every text on my website is going to be that dark gray. But if I'm, say, like in the middle of something like a part of Arcadia that I want to be black and have a white text, I can say just for this section, make that text. I don't know what my hex number for my cream color is, but I don't ever use white and black. I always try and do something a little bit softer. And so I can just have one section have white text. So you can do all of this. Oh, and then there's JavaScript where all of the code and logic comes in, right? So what you can do, what I do, is you can do it all on one big HTML page, and you have your HTML, and then when you need some styles, you can put it in a little section of styles, and you need some JavaScript, you can put it in there. I try to keep things organized. I keep my JavaScript mostly together, and I keep my CSS mostly together, but they're all on one big page. And so I've tried to work with web designers or back-end server people, and every time they look at my site, they're like, what are you doing? It's all together. This is insane. Because what you can do is offset all of these things in different pages. So I could have the Arcadia section in a different file and the primer section in a different file, and then the main page just bring those files in and assembles them when you load the page. And so I thought what I was going to do last week was do that, organize everything so that if I want to just work on Arcadia, I can just load the Arcadia page. So it took me a long time, a lot of errors, and I'll kind of show you what some of the problems that came up. I don't know if I like this. I did it, and now I have the problem of, okay, I'm working on the website, and now I need to fix something in a section, and I click on it, and it's like, I don't know where this is. This is part of a different page. So I have to now remember what page I've stuck that on, go there, find it, edit it, save it, upload it, go back to the other page, make sure it's working. This is the reason why I did it the way I did in the first place. Like for me, because I'm managing the website, I think it's better for me to keep things the way that makes sense to me. So I was a little bit smart about some of this stuff. So one of the things I've been meaning to do for years and have never gotten around to because it's complicated was to build a test server where I take everything from the main page, put it on there, make a bunch of changes, make sure it doesn't break anything, figure everything out, then adapt the main page to have those features. So this is one of those opportunities to use ChatGPT where I didn't know how to set up a server on, I use Amazon Web Services. I use one of their sort of sub-services. And someone set it up for me years ago, and I don't know how it works. And so I was able to go into ChatGPT and say like, hey, I have an instance of this website. How do I make a second website that's a test server? And it walked me through it step by step. If you try and have it write code for you, you're not going to get anything great. But if you need it to explain something to you, like how does this work? Or even like I wrote some code and it's not working. What's the problem? It can sometimes find like I had an issue with something I'm going to show later in this video where it told me how to do it and I set it up and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. It was something that was going from Unity into the website. So if I wanted to make a change and test to see if it works, I have to build the whole game again. And that can take like 10 minutes. And so you make one change, wait 10 minutes, doesn't work, go back, try something else, wait 10 minutes. And I've had issues like this, and it's very simple. It was literally like the problem was I was using double quotes instead of single quotes. And that would have taken me days to figure out what the problem was. And it was something so simple, but I could just paste that into ChatGPT, and it's like, hey, that's not how quotes work in JavaScript. And so it was a 2-day problem that became a 10-second problem. So I think there's a lot of discourse about the use of these generative and large language model AI systems. I think that, there probably are, there are definitely unethical uses of these systems. But if what you need is help, because like, who am I going to get help from, right? Who's an expert in this that's willing to take the hour to read through all of my code when really I could just have the system read the snippet and make a guess, right? So I don't know. I could talk about this a lot, but it was really handy to be able to find those problems very quickly. So let's just like look at the website and I'll show you what I did. So this is the test site. I was able to build a whole second version of the site, load it up. And so you can see the A that's normally up here was moved down. And so this is one of the issues with, oh, here's the new, I think I still like this. I've had a week to watch that little animation play every day. And I do think it could be quicker, and I think it could be a little bit more interesting, but it is like, it's doing what I want it to do. Like, it's giving a little bit of pop and color and kind of making me excited for what's about to happen. Like, I always forget, ooh, what's going on? I think there's a lot of room for more of these little animations. So what I was saying is, like, when I moved all of the CSS over, you start having these little issues because of the way they were originally organized, and now they're in all of these different little files, and now I might have moved something below something else, and now it's triggering at the wrong time. And so one of the things, I really only 3 problems that came up on the test server. One is the little moon is missing the background behind it, and I'm sure that's something super simple. And then if we refresh it, you can see what I'm talking about. The A is normally up here, but it's moved down here for some reason. Now, the loading bar has moved down. I wasn't able to figure out why, because it happened really early on. I think it has something to do with moving the JavaScript to a separate file. So it's not affecting the main page because I didn't do that on the main page. And then there's one last problem that came up. If you log out, I don't even know where this came from. There shouldn't be 2 versions of this. There should just be the one. So it only happens when you're not logged in. Super weird. So these are the little things. I mean, honestly, 3 problems is pretty good because this is a huge website, and I had to go through and move all of this different stuff. I think the only thing I'm going to take from the test server and move to the main server is just moving the CSS. I think having that on the page has always been really messy, and I think having it somewhere else is probably a good idea. I might have to do a second run of this, reset the test server so it's exactly like the main server, do this whole thing again with just moving the CSS and then save it over. The reason, and I did not spend a whole week just moving CSS. One of the things I was looking into, and this was another issue of using ChatGPT just to kind of like have someone to spitball ideas off of and maybe get some advice. Okay. I really like the equipment I have. I think it all works very well. Apparently I cannot just leave my batteries charged for a week and then come back. Apparently they all drain that way. So I've now learned to charge them the day before and plug in my camera while I'm recording as well. So I think what I was about to talk about was making a test server for, for the database and for the website itself, so I can mess around with it. And so one of the things I've been kind of concerned about is security. There are a couple things that are passed back and forth between Unity and the web server. And so I was a little concerned that maybe I wasn't doing everything exactly right. I did some research. I was able to ask ChatGPT about it, like show it little bits and like, hey, is this okay? So apparently all my concerns are founded. They are concerns. They are not as big of a deal apparently as I thought they were, but there's still something I'm going to take care of. But apparently I'm doing pretty good. There's just like small things, and it doesn't really matter that much, the problems that I have. But if you're going to run a web-based business that has a lot of data moving back and forth and like a database that stores character profiles, you don't want people being able to like make changes to their character. It takes away the fun of a game if you are able to cheat. So that's something I can kind of worry about later. It's one of those examples where if you get complacent with ChatGPT and let it start doing a little too much, it's just going to give you a bunch of garbage and you don't realize it's garbage until halfway through. So I'm probably going to have to learn the lessons I learned from this approach. But I think ultimately this was a success. I'm pretty happy with what I learned from it. I maybe didn't accomplish as much as I wanted. Like a lot of the changes I made to the test server probably aren't going to make it over to the main server right now. But what I really wanted to do before I made a video was actually like accomplish something that you can look at and has some sort of value. So I did it on the test site and I tested it. Worked great. Oh, one more thing. So, well, this all comes together. So let's go back over to the main working website. So you can see the A is where it should be. Yeah, that kind of stuff just drives me crazy. Here's my character. Oh no, I'm not logged in. This is important. You have to be logged in for this. I should probably make a separate account so that you can't see my personal email address. Because I know I'm going to have to go back and blur these out in all these videos. Great. Okay, so a couple things about the primer that I felt were missing. So one, I think I showed this before. I got these buttons looking really nice. Oh, these are my wizard skills. Cool. But one of the things about this game that I am really interested in, haven't been able to really approach the way I want to yet, is sort of like creating a new wiki that is based, like it's an adaptive wiki. So it's based not just on, what, let's say like tools, what's in tools, equipment, like what is the article about equipment? Like that article has to represent everyone's interest, right? It has to be general so that anyone can understand it, but also specific enough that you can learn something from it, right? That you can actually take some kind of reference out of it and explore from there. But if you're talking about like a learning system, it doesn't really help to be given something that works for everybody. What you really need, this is why you have different textbooks for different grade levels, right? And so what I'm really interested in is this idea of an adaptive wiki. So I'm a first grader, so I should have a first grader's article about equipment. I'm a seventh grader, there should be a seventh grader version, right? But you don't just have to do it that way. I mean, that's really effective, I think, to have a graduated sort of curriculum-based, you've graduated from sixth grade, now here's the seventh grade article, right? But we have all this data about you, not about you per se, but about like your understanding about these topics, right? Like I know which questions you've answered, I know which ones you've gotten right, I know that you've improved over time, and so now I also know what you're interested in. So I should be able to serve you something about equipment as it relates to like, oh, you really like blacksmithing. So like, let's just talk about blacksmithing equipment. Like equipment's not really the best example of this. It might just be like fruit. It could be anything. But like I should be able to pull things from, oh, I really want to learn about biology, but I'm also really interested in dinosaurs. So let's talk about dinosaur biology, right? That's where like you're going to have to start building like an AI system, right? Like how do you collate all this information? How do you serve it in a way that is, logical and written not by an amateur, all of that stuff. And, those systems are not quite there yet. I mean, I've been talking about ChatGPT a lot in this video, but like it's not there yet. And that's sort of what I'm trying to accomplish with the way the primer is set up right now, because it's going to change over time. But right now it's about, building up this database of questions and answers and being able to sort things like, I understand this, I don't care about this, right? Like, and then seeing that across thousands of different profiles. And so once you've built up this database, then you should be able to start like slowly building out an AI system that is profile based. So I would have to draw tons of charts to really explain what I'm talking about really well. And this is where like I want to talk about Duolingo, because I think that's a very like cogent example of a way to use the system that would be very simple, because it's language. It's not about like knowledge or like specific topics. It's just about language. So I think there's a lot of like opportunities in a language system for what I'm talking about now. But one of the things that I think I showed this in the previous version, if you clicked on Wikipedia, it took you to Wikipedia. It took you off of the website. And so if you're, running a web-based business, you don't want people to leave your site ever. Like that's a big no-no. As soon as they leave, they might never come back. And so what I ideally want is to have that wiki I was just describing. But for now, all of this is associated with Wikipedia, which is totally fine. It's a comprehensive website. The only downside to it is that it does change over time. So even if you ask an equipment question that relates to the Wikipedia article, that article might change, and now you won't be able to necessarily find the information on that question if you're asked that question in the future. So it's a temporary solution, but I think it's working pretty well right now. And so that's really the only part of the primer I felt like was off. Well, there's another part, but I'll get to that in a second. So now you click Wikipedia, we load the article directly below it. And I think this is like really, that's not, interesting. There is not an article about equipment. Well, that's the opportunity for someone to write. But it can take you to tools and you can get some information there. And this is why I think having like a personalized one that's specifically for this website makes a lot of sense. But we'll go to a different topic, right? And so now I leave, article goes away, we're back to having our wizard stuff. So, well, maybe heat, quantum yield, Wikipedia. Here's information about quantum yield. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. Quantum yield is not something that you're going to talk about with a child, but there is a way to explain it to a child in a way that they would understand, but is that useful for Wikipedia, right? Like, does that actually make sense to make a Wikipedia article about quantum yields that is applicable to someone who knows nothing about quantum physics? It doesn't really make sense. But if you're a child and you're interested in quantum mechanics for whatever reason, like kids get interested in weird stuff and then they get like super interested in it, and there aren't really opportunities for them to learn about every kind of topic. And so if there was a graduated version of this article, then you could lead them from the beginning of like, here's how atoms work as it relates to the topic, until eventually you hit the high level version, which is this one, right? And like potentially even beyond that, right? Like this might be too general. Like you could probably get more specific than this. But what I'm getting at right now is that having this pop up below the game on the website within the context of the primer is really, I think, transformative. Like now it feels like a learning experience, whereas before, when I would play the primer, it felt off to me. There was an element of just sort of like busy work to it. Like you're just, it's a job. I'm just introducing data. I'm asking questions. I'm stating facts, but like I'm not necessarily learning anything. I'm not like exploring anything. And if I go to Wikipedia now, I don't feel like I'm playing the game anymore. But now that it's embedded below the page, it feels like it's part of the game. And this is one of those things like, when you talk about user experience design, this is the kind of thing that you're looking for. It's not fundamentally different from the way it was before, but because it is now a part of the visual language of the website, the wiki is now a part of the game, and it feels different. It feels entirely different. The only problem I have right now with it, and I don't think there's anything I can do without getting super complicated, is that it's a white background on Wikipedia, and I use cream for everything on my site. So it still feels a little bit separate. If I could get this background to be cream colored, it would be a whole different ballgame. And so this was the thing I got done yesterday, and it's something I've been thinking about trying to do for a long time, but I didn't really want to like investigate it because I thought it might be really difficult and I might mess up my site. And so this was another opportunity for like, hey, ChatGPT, how do I embed something in the website? I want it this big. I want it in this spot. I want to have a JavaScript button that embeds it and then have it disappear when I do something else. And it gave me like 3 lines of code and I was done. So I do recommend it for like these little tiny things. How do I do one small task? And so, like I said, I think this is transformative. I think this changes the primer at a fundamental level. But also, there was something that was really bothering me. I got to find a skill that has not a prompt for me. Okay, so some milk cap mushrooms are edible. So my original conception of the way this works is, you're just supposed to guess if you don't know. Or you could leave the site and look it up yourself. Like, I'm not worried about, this is not a curriculum-based game. Like, this is not, I'm not giving you certification in these topics. I'm giving you the opportunity to learn about things you might be interested in. So I don't care if you go look this up. If anything, I prefer that you go look it up because now it's become like an internalized goal of yours, right? Like, so you are going to learn a lot more by needing information than just regurgitating information. And so that's sort of the philosophy behind the primer in general and why Frontier is the way it is. And so, this was fine. Some milk cap mushrooms are edible. True or false? I don't know. I don't know. True. Sure. What is mycelium? I actually do know what a mycelium is, but what if I don't know? I don't like before you would just skip it, and that would tell me you don't know. But that doesn't actually help you. That helps me and helps me sort my database better. But why not have Wikipedia load up below and give you the article about mycelium, and then you can have an informed answer. So a lot of people are going to have the same answer because they might just copy and paste it from Wikipedia. And so what that allows me to do in the future, I need more cards in the system before this would even make sense to approach. I probably could figure it out, but I don't think it's time for this yet. But if you just say, like, copy and paste from Wikipedia, this is what mycelium is. Now I know that you copied and pasted from Wikipedia, and that gives me the opportunity to ask you a follow-up question. If you give me a wrong answer, that gives me the opportunity to give you the Wikipedia answer, right? Like, so this is where like the adaptive system starts coming into play. And I think this is also fairly transformative to be able to say, like, well, I don't know, I'm going to seek out this answer. Or at the very least, I'm going to find some context where I can maybe get somewhere. The only thing about this, I actually really love this. I think this is working out great. It would be really nice to have multiple possible sources, like, oh, here's a textbook answer you could click to, or here's Wikipedia article, or here's the primer version of Wiki. But I would need all of those resources sort of in place to even be able to approach that. The only downside to the way I have it right now is that in the prompts, it's a big Wikipedia button right here. But if it's not a prompt, you clicked on the subtopic button. And you get a little bit of feedback that it lights up to let you know that it's something. But it does not fit the visual language of the Arcadia network, right? Like, I like my buttons to have a mouse over. I like for them to have a background. These are very clearly buttons. This is not obviously a button, but when I play it, sometimes I think it's a button. So that's why I put it there, because like my natural inclination is like, oh, mycelium, or this looks like it could be a button as well. So I think it's okay. I think it's one of those things where when you first start playing, it's part of the tutorial. Like, oh, did you know that if you click this, you can get the Wikipedia article? I think it's probably as simple as that. But I think this was the part of the primer that was really bothering me, because every other part of the site I feel like is pretty good. It tells you what it needs, what it does. You can sit down and you can play it, and at whatever level it is fun or it's not fun, right? Like Jumper, I don't find particularly fun, but I can play it for a long, except right there. These are games. Like, you can play them, you understand them. Frontier's not done, so take it for what it is. But the primer did not feel like something that was actually engaging or something that I wanted to interact with at any real level. And I think ultimately it did come down to like this two parts. One is sort of the Duolingo problem, where I don't have a I'll load up Duolingo. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, Duolingo. Let's see, I'm probably logged in for Mandarin. Let's see. So Duolingo has this thing, and I'm going to try and not talk about this all day because I want to do a whole video about it. But, there's a pathway. You start out, and here is how to say hello and goodbye, and then you can use your numbers, and then more hello and goodbye, right? And then so everything you do, you move on to the next topic, to the next topic, to the next topic. They've really changed the visual style of this. I don't know if I love it. I know I don't love it. I don't know if I like it at all. But it's a breadcrumb trail. That's a very effective way for games to serve you a bunch of the same kind of interaction in a row to keep you interested. And these all have subtopics too. So if we're going to practice, oh no, I guess I'm thinking of the old way. I use a different app for learning Mandarin. I don't actually use Duolingo, and they have a different setup that I prefer. But I'm going to do a whole chart, and I'll talk about Duolingo and why this structure is, suboptimal for this kind of learning. But I think this is valuable. I think this is something that the primer needs, where instead of just everything botany, to be able to say, okay, well, there are subtopics in botany, or there is a logical progression to learning botany, right? Like, because if you go into a textbook, you go chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And the way the primer works is it's more of like a mind map. It's more of a connection between ideas, but those are not mutually exclusive. You can do both. If you don't know where to start, sometimes it's really helpful to go level 1, boom, 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 boom. And then if you find a subtopic that you're interested in, then you can dig into it in the way that the primer is set up, where like, just tell me about Vaccinium parvifolium, and you can learn about botany through that subtopic. And so it's the combination between these two ideas, I think, that is ultimately the going to be the greatest strength of my design philosophy on all of this. It's just that I have 90 topics, and I'm not an expert in all of them. I think some of the biology and some of the engineering and maybe some of the astronomy, maybe I could build out a curriculum-based pathway, but I'm not an expert in that. That's where like I have to build out the infrastructure so that it's easy to set that stuff up. And then bring on subject experts to kind of shepherd the way through all 90 topics. But in the meantime, I think, what I would prefer to focus on is like what's the unique aspects of the primer and sort of the opportunities of adaptive learning, right? And so, well, what's really exciting about this, and that's why this video has already become entirely too long, is that this was the last piece of the website that I felt like was lacking, that really bothered me and I didn't think was any fun, and wondered if anyone would be interested in this. But now that wiki thing is in there, like I feel entirely different about it. So I've been kind of struggling with getting myself to focus on the frontier, which is truly the part of this that is, I think, going to grab people and make all of these other pieces I've already built come together. Because once you're a character walking around the world and playing all these mini games, then maybe you want to play the mini games in another context. But it's being introduced to them in an environment. I think that's really going to make this a powerful learning tool and a fun experience, right? Like I love games like Stardew Valley, or to a lesser extent Animal Crossing. I like the farming stuff. I like bigger maps, but there was something about what I had currently that just felt so lacking that I couldn't like pull myself away from it. But now I think I can do it. And so I'll talk about this later once I've gotten a second one, but I do have a contractor building maps for me. He's given me the first one. It looks really good. He's from Poland, I think. I'm pretty sure he's from Poland. I'm kind of giving him carte blanche to do what he wants. I've given him all of my resources, and I'm just like, hey, I'm not interested in trying to organize a logical progression of these maps. What I need to do is focus on getting the user interface right, like making it look and feel really good, and making sure that when you go up to an item and you scan it and it gives you the primer within context, that it's something that is intuitive and exciting. Because right now it's okay. Like people still scan stuff and they still kind of like reading little things about flowers, but like it needs to be beautiful and it needs to be simple and it needs to be logical. And so that's going to be like my great challenge, because I think the website's okay. People really like the visual style of it, and I really like how it's turning out. But when I try and bring that style into Frontier, it doesn't quite work. So I'm not sure what it is that's not working about it. I don't know if it's the thickness of the lines. I don't know if there's just so much more information that needs to be expressed that the simplicity of it is just not going to fly. But that's going to be my challenge probably for the rest of the year. So my approach right now, it has been to just kind of let him make stuff. He's on his second map. I think I'm going to get it tomorrow, and I'm just going to keep paying him to make them. And I'm, right now it's the forest, next it's the suburbs, then he's going to do a city, and then I'm going to have the beach, and hopefully they'll all flow into one another. But what really matters is building this environment where walking around, scanning things and picking them up and seeing them in your inventory and doing your quests and all of that like looks and feels really natural, and not worrying about the story and not worrying about where things actually need to be, but just like feeling like you are like embedded in this world. And then once all of that feels really good, then I can start worrying about like, okay, well, what does the arcology look like that you find? Like where, like is the house overgrown? All of that stuff, like all of the small details that, really bring a world to life, and really focusing on like the narrative design of the visual elements of the game. I can worry about that later. What really matters, especially when you're prototyping, is like, does it look, does it feel, does it maybe probably should sound good. And so that's what I'm going to be focusing on probably for the rest of the year. I'm hoping I can get, maybe 10 maps so that I have, because when I start working on something, like I get it done and then I want to do more. And so with the last prototype I showed a couple videos ago, I put all of it in, like, and then I had no more map, and it was going to take me like 2 more days to make more map. And that drives me crazy. So I'd rather have way too much to add. And give me something to do like all day, every day for 2 weeks. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I should probably stop talking now because I just got myself really excited, and I know I could do this for another hour, and nobody wants to watch that. So thanks for watching if you made it all the way to the end. I'm not sure what the next one will be about. Maybe it'll be about Duolingo. I don't know. Maybe I covered all of that stuff in this video and I don't need to anymore. We'll see. All right. Well, I hope you like what I did with the primer. I hope maybe you'll try it and see if it feels good to you. If it does, leave a comment. If you still think it's garbage, or still, if you think it's garbage, also tell me that. And then I'll delete it because I don't like the hits to my self-esteem. I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, I will see you guys later. Have a good time. Good developing, everyone.